This is the RC Bodyguard Basic Installation Guide. First up, we're going to go through the stuff you need to complete your install. We've got essential stuff here on the right and stuff that makes your install a little bit easier here on the left. So I'll go through your essentials first, starting with spray bottles, one for your grip solution and one for your slip solution, your soap or slip solution concentrate, which we'll go through in a minute how to mix that, and lastly alcohol. This is isopropanol. It has to be 99.9% to make mixing easier. Next up, scalpel. Brand new blades, make sure they're sharp. No curved blades, kind of personal preference, but we prefer 10As because they've got a straight edge rather than a curved edge, and they've got a nice point on them for getting into the body pin holes. So they are needed for that. Next up, squeegee. The basic one that comes in your kit's fine. There are some little extra ones on the website that make certain bits easier to do, but they are not essential. And on to cloths. So you need some sort of drying cloth. If nothing else, a microfiber is okay. One step better is a proper dedicated automotive drying towel because they're kind of lint free, and that's really handy because you don't leave fibers where you're going to be applying. The other thing is that the fibers can stick to decals. If you've got an edge of a decal lifting or anything, you don't want that. These cloths are better. Next thing you're going to need is a hot air gun or a hairdryer. I prefer hot air guns. They get things hotter quicker, but that can be a little bit risky for Lexan bodies. But if you're careful, I prefer a hot air gun. Obviously, last on your list of essentials for your fitment is your kit, which will arrive in a tube like this. And on to some of the nicer bits. These bits, as I say, are not essential. They do make fitting the kit a little bit easier, a little bit nicer. And starting with a decent pointy pair of tweezers, they're quite nice to have. A pair of sort of flat angled end tweezers. They're quite nice for picking the edges of the film and also pulling out. They are eyelash tweezers. Next, a little plastic spatula. These are available on the website, and these again are quite handy for just picking out the edges of your kit. Little micro squeegee. Not essential, as your normal squeegee is pretty good for getting into corners. These are just nice for getting into some of the little vents or recesses and stuff. Those are available on the website, don't come with a kit. Next up is a wrap glove. These are handy because they are absorbent and they slide on the film nicely. So doing the edges and hot air gunning the edges down, these make that job a lot easier. And last but not least, window cleaning cloth. These are really absorbent, and they are also completely lint free. So these are really nice for drying edges off and wicking away water from edges before you go in with the hot air gun and the glove. So these are really handy to have. Not essential, but bloody handy. Last up, masking tape or sellotape, and we'll get onto why we need it in just a sec. First thing to do with your kit is unroll it. As soon as you get the kit from us in the post, unroll it, lay it flat. It's really important to unfold the kit. If it's left rolled up, it can over time crush the parts, and you'll be amazed that when you come to fit them, they are actually smaller than they should be. So even if you aren't going to fit the kit for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or even a year, lay it out, lay it flat, allow it to just sort of sit there on the bench, and don't re-roll it. Next up, familiarise yourself with your kit. Most kits will arrive with the model, the details of it, and a little schematic of what your actual kit looks like. Black for external surfaces, grey for internal surfaces, and it is laid out on your sticker how the actual parts are laid out. So from this I can kind of see there's my side part, I can see that runs down there, little light part, that's there, front bumper, that lies across here, bonnet there, and so on. For the most part, this sticker will be on the front. If the kit is cut in such a way that we can't fit the sticker on the front, as in this kit, how it will be is, if the sticker is that way up, if you flip the kit, it'll be the same way up. So I can sort of see by doing that, that here's the side of my side of the car, and that sits there. Flip it over, roof part down here, obviously that's down there somewhere. Interior parts here in grey, they're going to be up at the top of the kit in the middle, you can see those there, and so on. So let's talk about solutions. Good idea to get these mixed up before you start. We have a slip solution and a stick solution. They do as they sound. Slip makes the film slide around, so this is good obviously for sliding your bits of film around and getting them into position before you squeeze them down and then make them stick with this one. Let's start with the slip solution. So you can make up the slip solution out of one of two things that we'd recommend. Johnson's Baby shampoo, the old type with the yellow lid and the clear bottle. The new stuff with the yellow bottle and the clear lid has got coconut oil in it and it doesn't work, the film doesn't stick. It's not great for this application. You can still get this on a place like Amazon or eBay. The alternative is this product, Film On, which is designed for these films and works really well. It's expensive for a full bottle, so you can get these smaller bottles on our website. You need literally drops of this stuff, so one of these will last you a lifetime. And we are going to be mixing up these with preferably pure water. Pure water is good, deionized water is better. Tap water is okay, but it can have things in it that can make the film do funny things. Okay, let's talk about mixing. So I'm going to use Film On, so I'll get rid of the Johnsons. I'll get rid of our big bottle. The mix ratio of this is not critical. It's got to be close-ish, but you can play with it a little bit. More of it makes the film slide around a lot more, as you'd expect, which is nice for fitting, but it can make it a little bit tricky to get the film to hold in place when you need it to. Opposite, obviously, the less you use, the quicker it's going to stick, the easier it is to get it to stick when you need it to, but it is a little bit grabby, a little bit sticky, and it can be a bit tricky to get the film in the right place. If you want to get your mix ratio perfect, you can use one of these, graduated syringe, but you can just do sort of a free pour, and it's about 7 or 8 decent blobs from one of these is your 3 mils. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's pretty much bang on 3 mils. And then obviously that into your litre of water, and you're good to go. Shake it up, off you go. Next up, you're going to mix up your stick solution, which is a mix of pure water and IPA or isopropanol at 99.9%. You don't need this much. You can get away with just getting a litre from somewhere like Amazon or eBay. In a 500 ml bottle like that, you only need 150 mils. So if you get a litre, it's going to keep you going forever. As I say, this is a 2 parts pure water to 1 part IPA mix. So as I say, in 500 mils you need 150 mil, in a litre you need 300 mils. That 3-to-1 mix is a pretty strong mix. I wouldn't recommend going a lot stronger with it. You can go weaker, but it will not have quite as good a stick effect. I like it this strong because it means you can squirt it on, stick it down, and it stays. If you go much stronger, it will start damaging the adhesive, it will go cloudy, and it will stop sticking, and you'll have knackered your kit. So just be careful with the mix ratios with the alcohol. Let's get started. So I am gonna start with this. All these lovely decals and painting and like scale gorgeousness that needs protecting. To start off, clean your shell. If it's been used, any dirt or grit or any sort of use muck on it, make sure you wash it in the sink with soap, water, and a soft sponge. If it's brand new, it's still worth giving it a wipe, just to get rid of any oils, dirt or dust. So a bit of a squirt with your alcohol solution spray, and a wipe down with your lint-free, preferably drying cloth. So that just makes sure your surface has had all the dirt taken off it, and your fingerprints or anything like that, and hopefully that is a pretty clean surface to start from. Shell-wise, holding them still, what I normally like to do with saloon-style bodies is sit them on the chassis like that. I have front body pegs in, and if it's going over some body pins, what's easy to do is take the shell off, flip it over, and that is where the tape comes in. So grab a little bit of tape, stick it over the pinholes, and what that allows you to do is align the front, and then the rears will just locate there, and it just allows the thing to be held, but it means that you can fit your piece of film over the top of these holes without them poking through. So it's still located, it'll still hold itself there, but it just means the whole thing just sits there nicely. Body pins in the front, hold it in place, another little wipe, and we are good to start. Grab your kit, work out which piece you're going to go for first. So I'm going to do my roof, which is of course this center section here. So flip it over, find your roof section, which I can see is there. And there's a couple of ways to get this out. The kit is shipped like this to prevent any of the parts becoming peeled up and damaged in transit. And so the easiest way to unpeel these is to get your tweezers or your pick tool, and then place the corner of the tool right on the edge of the cut line and push the film away from your part. And that will give you somewhere to start. So once you've pulled your film away like that, it is a good idea to just spray some of your slip solution on there, just so no dust can get in when you peel it up. And again, you can either use the tweezers to peel the edge up just a little bit, and then you can peel the part out like so. Spray that to make sure no dust can stick to it. Peel your part all the way out. Spray it down with slip solution. And let's lay that on top of the car. Get that out of the way. So at the back here, there are these little tiny chamfers on this corner. That's because this part here is designed to just lap over the edge like that. So I'm just going to align the corner of the chamfer on that straight edge. But before you put anything in place, it is worth just checking further up the panel that you're not wildly out up here, because the last thing you want to do is stick this in place and then need to twist it over to get the top part to fit. So it's worth just making sure everything is roughly in place up the other end before you stick this. So now I'm happy that's all in place. I'm going to get my stick solution, my alcohol solution, and just gently lift that up. Spray a bit under there. And then on top I'm going to put my slip solution, so my squeegee slides on it nicely. And I'm just going to fix that in place by squeezing that out nice and firmly. There's something under there, just get that out. So that is now fixed in place, which allows me to move on to the rest. Next, once you've got the back all secured in place, you just want to give this a little tiny pull up to the windscreen. This should just overlap the front of the screen here to protect the edge of the screen decal there. And when you roll over or anything, you don't want this all getting scraped up. So you want to kind of center this between here and here. Give it a little bit of a pull. Make sure that's lined up, make sure that's lined up in this corner. This compression doesn't matter because we're going to do it with the hot air gun afterwards. And then just make sure you're happy with your alignment on each side. A little bit of slip on top to make sure your squeegee slides. And squeegee the centre part out like that. Check your alignment, it's looking good. And then once you've done that, you can just squeegee as much of this out as you can. So you'll see there's quite a lot of places where this is not stuck, quite a lot of fluid in here, and that is where we are going to start getting the stick solution in there. So just a little spray in here where it's not sticking. Make sure you get plenty so it sort of wicks its way in there, and then squeegee it out, and all of that is stuck straight away. Might need a couple of goes. Bit more alcohol in this side, and squeegee it out. Helps to kind of hold your finger on it in a minute, a little bit like holding something together with super glue. Just let it stick, let it stick, let it stick. And some of this stuff that won't come out, we're going to have to do at the end with hot air. These sides here, where you've got these sort of fingers that are formed, these creases here, a little bit of alcohol, squeegee it out, squeegee it over the side, a bit of grit in there that I'm going to get out. I don't know where that's coming from. You can just peel the film up, wipe your finger over it, grab that bit of grit out, and back down again. So working it down, bit of alcohol, just gently over the edges, just sort of feed it over the edge, like that. Bit more alcohol. And that's starting to stick. This is the perfect place where your glass cleaning cloth comes in handy. So for bits like this is not sticking because it's got a load of fluid in there now. But if you take your cloth and just dry that off, you'll see that that will start to stick. See, that's all gone down. Keep squeegeeing it out, keep squeegeeing it out. Press pretty hard, try and get as much out of the sides of these decals as possible. Keep squeezing it out. Bit of alcohol where it won't stick. Just getting that tip of that squeegee right in there. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this around to the other side. Don't worry too much about bubbles like this. This is the sort of stuff that we're going to hot air gun out later. What you can get down at this time are these big gathers. So just plenty of alcohol and just slowly and deliberately squish it down. Only bits like this that you want to stick a bit better. Get your drying cloth and just dry those edges and sort of hold it down as you do it. Little rub, just make sure those edges are dry, and then they stick or start to stick. Just got the very edge of a decal there, so I'm just going to hold my finger on it. There you go, so the heat from your finger, a little bit of pressure, and that's stuck. Same here, a little bit. Just hold my finger on it. And it's stuck. So now you can work all of any fluid that's caught in these decals, work as much of it towards the big chunk of fluid there. Just work any of that fluid out. Now all of this is sealed, you can just bring all of this fluid out of the decals and bring it forward to where you've got this part that's still open. You can push pretty hard. Make sure you keep the surface wet so your squeegee doesn't stick. Always try and squeegee, like this bit back here has been stuck for ages, so it's not a great idea to try and squeegee through that, but you can squeegee up away from it and to the sides where this has only just been stuck down, so there's plenty of avenues for the film to come out, the fluid to come out there, but try not to squeegee straight back through the stuff that's been stuck down for ages. Okay, so I think we've got about as much out as we're going to get like that. So just under the front here, plenty of alcohol. Same thing again, just slow, deliberate squeegeeing. Bring it down over the decal. This bit here that's wanting to stay up. A little bit of heat from your finger. Hold it on. And that's pretty much stuck. And if it won't, just dry it off a little bit. Okay, time to dry it off with your drying cloth. You can start drying the edges a little bit more as well, just make sure the whole thing is kind of dried off as much as you can. Always wipe away from the edges so you don't catch the edge with your cloth. And you'll see there's lots of fluid in here that we're going to sort of work out over the next couple of minutes. And if it doesn't come out, then we're going to hot air gun it out. So little corners like this that won't stick, just hold your finger on them. Get some heat into them and they'll go down. These have popped up again because they've got wet. I dried them, but they've come up again, so just hold your finger on it. And there we go, it's stuck. So this might look unstuck, unfinished, but all of this is going to get finished off with the hot air gun when this has had a chance to do some drying. In the meantime, this little lip at the back, just a little bit of alcohol under there, and then with your finger sort of push it over and hold it, push it over and hold it, push it over and hold it, and it should stick like that. Okay, so that is finished for maybe half an hour, and then we'll start hot air gunning these edges down. And once we've done that and when it's completely dried, we will hot air gun all of these and once it's completely dry, we will go around and hot air gun all of this. Now when it's completely dry, we're going to go around and hot air gun all of this down. So we can't do that until this is completely dried out. But once this is dry, we can blast all these decals down and make sure it's all nice and stuck all the way around them. So just speed up the dry process. The more fluid you can work out with your drying cloth and light pressure, just work that fluid out as much as possible and dry it off over the decals. You can use firm pressure, just sort of start pulling it out like here. Just start from the middle up here and then dry it out when you see it pop out the edge. Same down here, when it pops out the edge there, just soak it up. It'll just speed up the dry process. You could just leave this overnight and the whole thing would dry and then you could hot air gun it, but this just helps it dry a bit quicker. So I've just taken the body off the chassis for a moment. What I'm going to do now is just make sure the peg holes here are stuck completely, because I'm going to trim them out, which means I can then put the body back on the chassis and push quite hard, because I'm going to need to push relatively hard when I'm getting some of this fluid out. So I'm just going to start off by gently heating these up. We're pushing the fluid out, a little bit of heat, push it out and hold it, a little bit of heat, push it and hold it. All you're trying to do here is get it with enough tension or enough stick so you can then cut your holes. A little bit of heat, hold it down, A little bit of heat. Hold it down. A little bit of heat. Hold it down. And that should now be enough for you to cut your body peg holes. So, fresh blade. And then what you're going to do is just pierce one side with the scalpel facing away from you, and just hook it round. And cut those out. One. There we go, and that allows you to stick your body back on your chassis, and now you've got all of that support from the pegs. Just put those front pins back in. Okay, next, glove on, if you have one. If not, you can just use your finger, but it's much better with a glove because this helps it slide over the surface. It also stops your hand getting burnt, which is handy. And this is just really nice to just work this stuff out with. But what's going to help a great deal is getting the hot air gun on it. So you're not trying to blast this, you're not trying to get it really hot, you're just literally wafting the hot air. So a little waft, little push, little waft. And what you're trying to do is just push some of this fluid out, but also try and get the film to stick at the same time. So just push it out as much as possible. And a lot of these channels that are full of fluid will start sticking much better. So just work the fluid out. A little bit of heat. If you trap fluid like that, you can sort of force it with the corner of your squeegee. Just force it into one of the decals or something, because we're going to dry the decals out afterwards when it's completely dry with the hot air gun. So around the screen here, there's loads of bridging and bubbles there. So to help that stick, little blast of heat, smooth it down. Little blast of heat, smooth it down. Little blast, smooth it down. Little blast. And you're pressing quite hard, but smoothly just pushing this out. Get as much out as you can. At this point, any edges that are not stuck, like here, this is a pretty good time to dry it a little bit with a glove. And then a bit of heat. Hold it down, little bit of heat, hold it down, little bit of heat, hold it down. And when it stops popping up, it's done. There we go. Just sort of chase the fluid to somewhere it can get out. Don't panic if the film is right on the edge of the decal there. When it's completely dry, it only needs about 0.5 millimetre over the decal to stick. And if it's not over the decal and it bridges it, it will still go down with heat once it's completely dry. So at that point, you can move on to another part. If possible, it's a good idea to keep this as dry as possible, because any fluid you get in here, it's going to suck itself back in again. You spent all that time drying it, so it's going to get wet a little bit, but just don't soak it. Moving on to the side, the first thing we're going to do is just fix these decals that are slightly lifted. I'll show you how you do that now. Okay, sometimes on ready to run, you get this with the decals where they've kind of popped up in transit or not been stuck on properly to start with. Need to fix that before putting your protection kit on, otherwise it'll never stick and it'll look rubbish. So easy fix, a little bit of your alcohol solution, just spray it up there, kind of work it in a little bit, make sure it gets all the way into the edges, and then leave it for 2 or 3 minutes. What your alcohol solution does is re-wet and kind of re-soften that adhesive on the back of the decals, and that allows it to then re-stick. So leaving it for a couple of minutes is a good idea, and then squeegee it down, pressing hard. So squeegee that alcohol solution out, and then it does help to just slide your finger over it and hold it down. That, and get your drying cloth, just make sure that's dried, and that's restuck. If the adhesive here has gone and isn't sticking properly, once your protection kit goes over the top of this, it will hold it in place. However, it's best to get that stuck down before you put your kit on. Okay, decal's all done. So onto the side. As before, spray some alcohol over it. Give it a quick wipe down. Just get any grease, fingerprints, muck, dust off. Like that. Move that out of the way. Find my part. I want this side here. So I know that this side will translate to here. So I can see my part there now. Take that pin out just because it's getting in the way of where I want this on this side, but I've got 3 pins in, that should hold it in place. Okay, so plenty of slip in this, just because you want it sliding around all over the place whilst you get your bit of film sort of in place, and it helps where these double curvature bits are. Just get your finger in and push the air out like that. Help it lay against the side of the car. Line up all your edges up here where it butts up against the bonnet. You don't want it going overlapping. Lining up, this aligns here, this aligns in here. This is looking pretty good over the front here. So for the most part, pretty pleased with that alignment. It doesn't matter if everything is completely down, like all this stuff is still floating. What you want is to know that this is sort of, when you do squeegee it down, it's going to be in the right sort of place. And what you could do to hold this back bit in, because it's a little bit floaty, a tiny bit of alcohol behind it, just to hold that in place. Stuck already. Just sort of put it roughly where you want it, and then just a little bit of heat from your finger. Don't need your squeegee, and that is now pretty well stuck there, but we'll ping that off. We just want that to keep that in place whilst we get the rest of this in. So like I was saying, to get this stuff out, there you go, you can just sort of push the air out to get it to sit a bit nicer. That's not really worked. So this corner here might need sealing up. So there, if you just seal that up, now you should be able to see, you can just push all that fluid out, and this is now all sitting right against the panel as we want it. All that's fitting nicely up there. You don't want it overlapping your part you've already put on back here. You want it just to butt up against it nicely, or you know, a couple of mils fine, you don't need it butting. So that is all pretty well in place. It's where I want it. The bottom's fitting nicely. A couple of mil, not even that, half mil away from the bottom there. So then more slip on the surface, and then just start getting a little bit of it in place and stuck. So that middle bit is going to hold everything else in place whilst we mess around with it and get the rest sort of stuck in. Any bits like this that are being a pain, lift up, tiny bit of alcohol in there. And down it goes. Any bubbles like this, just push them out. Being a pain over here, so pull it up, alcohol down there, and just push that out with your finger. Just make sure that bit that wasn't sticking, there you go, that's stuck. And then for good measure, just squeegee it out along that decal, and just make sure the actual flat bits, you're always going to get a bit of fluid around the decals at this point, but just make sure your flat parts have all got all of the fluid squeegeed out. So any flat parts like this, just make sure they're nicely squeegeed out. Don't worry too much about the decals, we're going to sort those out later. Bit of alcohol in that. Anything that won't stick, bit of a squirt of alcohol, push it down with your finger, and then follow up with the squeegee. There's a slight bit of damage on that decal that's holding that up there. Little corner of the decal not stuck down properly, just pull that out. Oh yeah, the decal's got a bit of damage on it there, where I think it's sort of a miscut from when they've been cut originally. So push that back down again. Okay, so most of your side along here is looking pretty good. All of this is squeegeed down. I'm going to go to the front. sure that's all fitting nicely. A bit of alcohol in that. Make sure it's not overlapping the bonnet part, which is already on. Sort of push it into place with your finger, sort of using your finger a little bit like a squeegee to start with, just smoothing it down with your finger, pushing it in. A little bit there under that decal. See if we can get that out. With alcohol, using your finger like a squeegee, just push that fluid out, follow up with the tip of the squeegee, just make sure as much of that fluid's out as possible. Along here, this is all floating, alcohol, squeegee it down. If it won't go down, hold your finger on it. There we go. Keep working all the fluid out. A bit more alcohol. Slip, because my squeegee's sticking, and then just work all the fluid down to the bottom here, because you've got a bit of a ridge here, and we're going to go into that in a minute. Just want to make sure as much of this fluid is out along this side as possible, because obviously gravity is going to take any fluid from here and it's just going to keep seeping down there, so you want to make sure all of this up here is as sealed up as you can. But before we do that, we're going to get this top part in first. So again, seal up one end here, and then all of this will just push out. So not even squeegeeing it, just sort of pushing it out with your finger, and then all that's sitting pretty nicely. And then you can just squeegee that out, because squeegeeing with your finger is not enough. It will kind of push a bit out and get it laying nicely on the panel, but you do need to squeegee it to make sure it's all out completely. This bit here, just bridging, bit of alcohol, push your finger over it, hold it on, follow up with the squeegee, and it's stuck. There we go. Along here, alcohol in there. Bring in your wicking cloth. Just make sure none of that fluid, because this is all this fluid is going to seep down inside there and keep popping this up. So just use your glass cloth, your wicking cloth. Just to make sure all that's dried off. Again, using your finger like a bit of a squeegee, just getting all that out. Drying the top off. Not worried too much about these bubbles in here around the decals, because we can push all that out as we did with the roof with the hot air gun. Just sort of push it forward and we'll heat it out afterwards, so don't worry too much about bubbles around the decals. A little bit here, it's not sticking. Alcohol, finger over it a couple of times, hold your finger on it, and it's stuck. And just to make sure it doesn't lift again, just dry it. So to the tricky-ish part. This crease down here is pretty sharp. It's going to be quite tricky to get the film to go down in there and stay. So what we're going to do is lift it up. Spray in some alcohol. Plenty of alcohol down there. And this is one place this little squeegee comes in pretty handy, because you can just get right in that corner and kind of hold it on, and you can see it's really sticking in that corner, and it's actually causing this to push up a little bit just because it's sticking right in there. Bit of alcohol. There's like a little channel here, in like a body line that's letting the fluid back in again. But as before, hot air gun will get all of this out at the end. More alcohol. Back to your normal squeegee. Okay, we're on the home stretch now. So this is the last part of the fitting process, and if you want a nice finish, probably most important. If you just want protection, seal up the edges as I'll show you, and go and run it, you're done. But if you want it to look all nice and nicely finished, we're going to start working out these bubbles that form around the decals and around the body lines. So there's a big one around the Dunlop and the NGK decal. All these ones along these body lines, right the way along here, up here on the door. This big body crease down here, big air bubble in there that's formed around all these decals at the front. And then right up the front here. right here, all these. So we're going to start working those out now. So for this, we're going to be back on the hot air gun along with the wrap glove. Or if you don't have the wrap glove, you can use your wicking cloth, your glass cleaning cloth, or literally just your fingers. But it is by far the best with the wrap glove. So with these bubbles, you don't really want to get them trapped. So it's a good idea to look for exits. So here, there's a hole in the end here. So all of these, they're all joined up pretty much. And you can bring them all down to here. There's an open point here. There's open bits up here. It's not the end of the world if you trap anything, because we can pierce them and get them out, but it's just much easier to kind of work from a point and work everything out. So this decal here, you can see there's a bubble that runs all the way around it, but there's nowhere for it to go in this direction. So we really want to be working all of that into this line where the door shut is and up. And same with the Seco decal here. The only way any of that air is going to go is back. This mark here is actually under the decal, so we'll try and work that out at the same time. But this big air bubble around here is all under the protection film. So we're going to work that backwards. I'll actually start with that one. So hot air gun going. Medium heat, just give it a good waft, and then start working the air out. And here you want to work it down, work that big bubble back out again, and work it all back towards the back of the decal, like that. And if you really want to get these close, warm it up again, and you can just get your fingernail just right up against the decal there and run it along, and then you can really get these close and get the air bubble out. Working your way forward, because you don't want to trap any of this air. Pretty decent pressure with your finger. And we're working the bubble towards this panel gap here, and then it can come out up by the window. Keep the hot air coming. Keep working it. So this one, on this panel line, I'm going to stick my fingernail straight in it and just keep rubbing it back and forward. And I'm working the air up towards the window this time. Trying not to trap any bubbles. So just trapped a tiny bubble there. And what we're going to do is go in with the scalpel. Just give it a tiny hook, same here, little tiny bubble there. Just hook it in. Use your fingernail to pull it out. Another nice little addition to your squeegee on a stick tool. A bit of felt glued around it. It'll just give you a bit of padding to do these body lines with. Just a little air bubble caught between the decals there. Again, a little hook with the scalpel. Rub it out. Take this slowly, just sort of work it out gently. You don't have to push it all out in one go. Just work a little bit of that out. There's still an air gap here, so once you've got most of it out, you can just go with your fingernail or with your squeegee tool and just work that last bit out. Keep the hot air gun coming. Put that decal back down again. Nice little bit there, seal that in. Any tiny raised edges, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there's just a tiny little bit of a raised edge here where it's quite close to the edge. Again, hot air, and just gently massage it down. You don't want any raised edges because they'll allow gunk and water and dust and track stuff in, and it might end up either lifting or getting dirty and looking rubbish. So another little bubble here just above this door. There. Again, I'm just going to hook my scalpel in. like that. A little bit of heat. And just gently work it out. A lot of these bubbles you can see here are actually under the decals, not under the film. Bit annoying. So any captive air bubbles, like on the door handle here, obviously there's no channel to get that out because they're completely like an island on their own and you can't work any of that out. So again, heat, and you're going to work it all round to one point, so you end up with a bubble, which you can then pierce with the scalpel. Cut your holes with a 10A blade, stick the blade away from you, standing almost upright, pull it down to about a 30-degree angle. Keep it moving if possible. There you go. And that's it. You're all done.